guess you could make dog treats like this too. Should we try that one day? Hello, welcome to the Sloth-worx YouTube channel. So today we're making some jerky. Do you like delicious homemade deer jerky? Well, you're fixing to see probably the easiest way I found to make jerky. So hey, before you click away, we're going to add a bonus feature to this video. We're going to use the same seasoning, the same dehydrator, 3 pounds of ground meat, this little doohickey, to make something that resembles this. So you're going to get to see jerky 2 ways. Whole muscle meat, which is dehydrating as we speak. We'll mix some seasoning in this tonight. With the ground meat, you don't have to leave the seasoning in here for 24 hours. I think it just is 4 hours. I like seasoning and let it sit overnight, but we'll run this tomorrow. But yeah, we'll show you both ways to make jerky. It's very good. You end up with a way better finished product than that. I don't think I said it earlier, but or I hadn't gotten to that part in the video. You want to use lean ground meat or lean whole muscle meat. You can use beef. Just make sure it's as lean as you can possibly get it. That fat is what will end up screwing up your end product. You just don't want that in your jerky anyway. So we're going to be using dehydrator for this project. Simple tools, a tablespoon measuring, a bowl. And I really like using this High Mountain jerky cure. We've had good luck with it. They got some great season or flavor options. And it's always made for a really good product in the end. And of course, the star of the show, a little bit of deer meat. It's whole muscle meat. We cut it in the strips. I'll show y'all kind of how I cut the grain. I like doing it a little bit different than normal. First thing is we'll get that meat out, get it patted dry, get it in this bowl and mix up the seasoning. So this meat's still a little frozen. It's been in the freezer. We did a little freezer clean out, but it'll be all right. It's got to sit 24 hours in the refrigerator anyway with the seasoning on it. We'll just lay it out, get another paper towel, we'll blot it all dry. Don't freak out, there's a little bit of blood, it is meat. Okay, so now we got this meat dried off. Don't know if you're really gonna be able to tell, but the grain of the meat, I like cutting it where it's running crosswise. A lot of people will cut it where the grain's going the lengthwise. There's a reason for this, and you'll see once we get this done why I do that. Yeah, you can see this piece, the grains are going this way. So the main thing is you want to make all this about the same thickness. You don't want them, you know, very thin versus very thick. So that's about the thickness I went with. I like a thicker chunk of jerky, and because it seems to stay a little bit more moist inside, and I just prefer that to being very dry. This actually looks like a piece of backstrap. When you trim this meat up, trim all that silver skin off you can. You might end up with a piece here or there. That's not gonna be a huge deal, but you wanna get as much of that off as you can. All right, so next up, we got our seasoning. You can pick whatever flavor you like. I believe this has been mixed up with like the peppered flavor. I think I like this one, half this one and half the peppered jerky, mixing those 2 seasonings together, which I usually just end up putting it in a Ziploc bag, mixing them together. So the cure comes in a separate package. You'll have to measure out what you need for the amount of meat you're using. I do this in 3-pound batches because that's what fits in my dehydrator. And going by the instructions, I've made a minor little tweak. So I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but 3 pounds of meat. I upped the amount of seasoning from a tablespoon and 1.5 teaspoons to just 2 tablespoons. And then you use 2 tablespoons of the cure. This will be for whole muscle meat. This meat will need to sit for 24 hours after seasoning before you run it through the dehydrator. So you got to plan ahead a little bit. So you'll be just using level tablespoons. The cure, you do want to be kind of particular, follow the recipe and time guidelines. It is a necessary part of the recipe, but just be careful with it. And I'm going to be using 2 level full tablespoons of it as well. So the jerky seasoning kit does come with a little shaker, which makes it a little easier to put it on the meat. Now what I like to do is just cap the holes, get it pretty evenly distributed in there, however you say it. And we're just going to shake it on the meat. As we do this, we're just going to kind of turn the meat over. The instructions do say lay out the meat and season one side and flip them, season them with the other half of the seasoning mixture, but I've had good luck doing it this way and I don't have to lay this stuff out all over the place, so we're sticking with it. However you choose to season your meat, whether you lay it out or do it in a bowl like this, you want to use all of it. If you end up with too much seasoning or season more than you'd like, just next time cut back on the amount of seasoning, or if you don't get enough seasoning, add a little bit more. That's why I adjusted my recipe. And it's already starting to smell pretty good. It's amazing what this starts smelling like. Well, we'll see y'all about 24 hours from now. Well, it's a new day. Got our dehydrator out. I've had this dehydrator probably, I don't know, 10, 15 years. There's no telling how many hundreds, if not thousands of pounds of jerky it's made. It's just the standard 4 tray. I like doing the meat in 3-pound batches. It fits perfectly on here. It gives you a little room for air to move around. So yeah, we'll get to loading it. Our meat is been in the refrigerator for 24 hours. As you can see, it's definitely taken on a brown color. There's no real red to it. Smells awesome. This seasoning's got, I guess, a smoke added to it, so you really don't even need to smoke this stuff. You could just put it on some cooling racks in your stove. You don't necessarily even need to have that. If you got a pellet smoker or any kind of smoker, you could do it on your smoker. It's real simple. You know, use what you got. All right, so to load this thing, we're just gonna start by dropping the pieces on there. We're gonna try and leave them where there's some room. We'll have plenty of space on these racks. We may not even use one of the racks. So that's about what you want spacing wise. Nothing's touching. You let that airflow really move through there. It'll help this finish up a little quicker. we go. We fit 3 pounds on just 3 of the racks. And go ahead and just leave that one in there just to leave a little extra room for air movement. Well, there you go. The best whole home air potpourri dispenser you'll ever have. It's fairly quiet. It doesn't make so much noise it runs you out of house and home. But it does put out a little heat, so we have a tendency to do this more in the winter time. It does warm the air a little bit. So I've never really timed this. You should probably allow 6 to 8 hours to dry out this whole muscle jerky. So just plan ahead on that. You know, you're gonna have to season your meat. It's gonna have to sit for 24 hours in the refrigerator, and you're gonna need 6 to 8 hours dehydrator in the oven. It'd be about the same probably. So there you go. I'll bring y'all back when it's time to start checking this. We'll probably give it, I don't know, at least 4 hours, and then rotate these racks around, give them, you know, put some of the top ones down on the bottom. But I'll bring y'all along for that. Well, got somebody interested around here. Alright, so it's been a little over 4 hours. Gonna see what we got going. Yep, it's looking pretty good. It's still a little squishy, but it's definitely starting to dry out. So what I'm gonna do is just go through here, flip everything over, rearrange these trays, and we'll let it go another couple hours before we, not yet. We'll let it go another couple hours before we try a piece. But yeah, it's coming along nice. All right, so basically what I did was flipped them all, and we restacked them, and then we moved the whole stack back up here. So we'll put the lid back on, get her started, and check back in about 2 hours. It is definitely getting there. It's kind of one of those just by feel things, but yeah, we'll look at it a little closer here in another couple hours.
1 hour later. A few minutes later.
Alright, well, it's been almost 7 hours now. I think we're about done. It's going to have to cool off and sit overnight before you really get a feel for what the texture is going to be. So right now it still has a little bit of give to it. And if we rip it in half, it's still just a little pink in the middle, but it's dry. So you can try it at this point, see how your handiwork's working out. It's gonna be good. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just let these sit in these racks and cool all the way down to room temperature. I'll throw them in a gallon Ziploc bag, leave it open, put it in the refrigerator overnight. And if you zip it up, a lot of times some of that moisture will still get your bag wet. But leave it open overnight. That gives a chance for any remaining moisture to evaporate out of there. Then you can pretty much close it up from there. We do tend to store it in the refrigerator, but you know it's safe to leave in the truck for a few days or throw in a backpack or whatever. All right, so here we go. Jerky from ground meat. Saved y'all the enjoyment of watching this get mixed up again. It does call for slightly more seasoning for the ground meat, but the cure stays the same. We're doing 3 pounds of ground as well. Pretty much same process, shake it on, stir it around, put it in the refrigerator. You can honestly do this one in a day. It's only got to sit for 4 hours according to instructions before you run it through the dehydrator. I like letting it sit overnight. I just think that gives that flavor a chance to get all the way through the meat good. So that's what we're gonna do. We'll get this seasoned up, put it in the refrigerator. See y'all back here in the morning. We'll fire that dehydrator back up and use the jerky shooter. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but this is straight up deer through the coarse grinding plate on my grinder, the chili grind. I went ahead and run it through twice. I normally just do it once. I like the extra texture you get from the coarser plate on the grinder. But we got it all seasoned up. We'll get her closed up and get right back on it in the morning. All right, well, it's the next morning. Ground meat's been in the refrigerator. You can see the colors turn brown. I'm gonna be using this jerky shooter. If you're the kind of person that is in a hurry and wants to do this all in one shot, buy the bigger jerky shooter. That's what you end up with. I mean, it stays together pretty well. Once it dries, it stays together real good. There's no casing or nothing on it. If you like longer strips, we tried to leave enough space for that, which I didn't. I'm gonna have to dig a little out. That'll do it. Now I found the handle of a white plastic spoon to be the perfect tool for getting this out of here. You can do whatever you want with this, just try and make it the same thickness as that. That's great for testing your work later on. Alright, so we got them all racked up. You know the deal, 155 degrees. We're gonna let it go for probably about 3 hours, roll everything over. And it's probably gonna have to go at least another 2 or 3 after that. But we'll bring you back to it when it comes time. Alright, so it's been about 2 hours. You can see it's skinned over pretty well. And what I'm going to do is just pull them all loose from the rack and flip them. And we'll shuffle these trays and we'll get this back going. It's going to need some more time. They're still real soft. But now that they've kind of skinned over, it's easy to move them around. And so one thing I didn't mention is if you're using beef, even lean ground beef, you'd see a lot more oil on the surface at this point. It's just what you're going to have to deal with if you're using, something that's got some fat in it. That's why deer is really great for this. All right, we flipped and rotated. Turn back on. Let it go for a few more hours. All right, well, it's been 4.5 hours. Been kind of checking it, and it's at the point where I'm going to stop cooking it, or dehydrating it, or whatever you want to call it. So once it starts getting this kind of wrinkled texture, it's still a little squishy. You want it to be a little squishy. It holds together real well. We'll let these cool off on the racks, come all the way down to room temperature, and bag them up. And all right, well, we got it all bagged up. Not a bad way to spend the weekend. One thing you got to realize when you're making jerky, I've got a scale here. We started out with 3 pounds. 1 pound 8 ounces. So you're gonna lose half the weight. Same with the whole muscle. 1 pound 8 ounces. This is the moisture that got in this bag overnight, or that was still coming out of the meat. I'll wipe that out with a paper towel and let it dry. Leave it open for a little bit longer in the refrigerator. As soon as it doesn't fog up the bag anymore, I'll seal it up. Moisture is obviously your enemy in any kind of dried meat. You don't want it in there. The reason why I like cutting the grain like I did is because you can rip this off in sections now. So, you know, if you got a friend you'd like to share some jerky with, it's very easy. Keeps it tender, and it just peels off of there like a stack of coins. Makes it real easy to get bite-sized pieces. I really like that. You can do the grain lengthwise and peel off strips, but for me, I like just being able to peel little pieces. So we're gonna end this video off here. Hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe this will help you make your mind up whether or not you want to try it. It doesn't cost a lot to get started. Like I said, you can make it in your oven. You can use your own blend of seasoning. You don't have to necessarily use a store-bought. I just had luck with that particular one. It's a great project for kids. If you got some picky eaters in your house that don't like deer and you like hunting, this stuff grows legs and walks off if it's anywhere in your house. It will disappear rapidly. It could be a pretty good use for some deer meat. So just another idea. Hope y'all enjoyed. We'll catch y'all on the next one. Thanks for watching. You're just gonna lose half of it. We're doing meat. Well, thank you, baby. We do apple chips too sometimes. Coffee's ready.